With this video, we're going to help you learn how accidentals work. Accidentals are the natural, the sharp, the flat, the double sharp. Starting over. The accidental worksheet was written, start over. Now that you've learned about accidentals, that there are only 5 of them and they can go in for each of the letters of the 7 notes, with the double flat being the lowest, up a half step to flat, up a half step to natural, up a half step to sharp, up a half step to double sharp. This video will help you learn how to use that information. First, let's look at the different ways that these 5 accidentals fit on the keyboard. Then you'll learn in scale playing and in warm-ups and in music how it works on your instrument. Each one of the white notes has a natural name. Sometimes we actually put the natural sign in there. Most of the time we don't. So if you see a note written on a staff and there's no accidental by it and there's no key signature at the beginning, you can assume that it's the natural. Here's G. Well, of course, you remember from our tutorial on the keyboard, next to the group of 3 is F to the left of that, and then to the left of the group of 2 is C. Let's take the G. This would be G natural. Up a half step from G natural, one of the names for this note could be G sharp. Up another half step could be G double sharp. And of course we know from the earlier training that this note is also possibly called A. Going down with the accidentals, the note 1 half step lower than G, the black note, sometimes is called G flat. So going down 2 half steps from the G could be called G double flat. So as we look at it, the sharp and the flat for G are both black notes, and the double sharp, I did that wrong, didn't I? The double sharp of G and the double flat of G are both white notes. When we go over to the E and F and the B and C, all of a sudden this black-white doesn't work anymore, but the half steps always work. For the note C, if you go up a half step, one of the names for this note, it could be called C sharp, often is. If you go up another half step, this note, white note, could be called C double sharp. Go down a half step, this white note, one of the names that could be used for it is C flat. Well, you know very well this is most often known as B, but sometimes in music it's called C flat. Go down another half step, and one of the names for this note is C double flat. So back with the G, up a half step, down a half step, G sharp, G flat, black notes. G double sharp is a white note, G double flat is a black note. But with the C, and this is also the same kind of issue with B and E and F, because there's no black note between B and C, the note a half step down, the C flat, is a white note, and the note 2 half steps down is a black note. For C, just like G, going up a half step is black, going up 2 half steps is white. Now, let's go to cut that last little bit. I'm going to get a fresh sheet. Okay, getting ready to continue. Now let's specifically go through the Accidentals Worksheet. Background information that you've covered already. A half step is the distance between 2 notes that are 1 fret. This is good for the guitar. On other string instruments, it's notes that are right next to each other. On the piano, it's notes that are as close as possible. On a guitar, a half step is the distance between notes that are 1 fret apart, or as close as possible on the piano. It is a half step from E to F and from B to C. From E to F and from B to C. Because there's no black note in between. But all of the other natural notes have a sharp flat note in between, one of these black notes. So from F to G is a whole step. From G to A is a whole step. From A to B is a whole step. B to C, no black note, half step. C to D, whole step. D to E, whole step. E to F, half step. These distances, by the way, are the same. The distances, the note names, the notes that are on the piano, 12 notes in each octave, 5 black, 7 white, 7 natural notes, 5 that don't have a natural name. They're the same notes used in all Western instruments. In music from Asia, especially Southeastern Asia, sometimes quarter tones are used, but we don't use those here. So if you play a string instrument or brass or any of the standard European ancestry instruments, these are the only notes that you'll have. So understanding how the piano works will help you understand how your instrument works. Okay, for the first section of this, identify the distance between each pair of notes. And if you're using a Scantron answer sheet, you'll fill in the A bubble for the half step and a B bubble for a whole step. F to G. Let's find the F, and here's the G. There's a black note in between, so this is a whole step. F to G is a whole step. Up here, E to F. Here's our E. There's the F. That's going to be a half step. You're on your own for the next 8 of those. For the next section, background information, an accidental changes a note to a new sound without changing the letter name. In other words, if we start on F and we go to F sharp, we're going to a new note that's a half step higher than F. Or if we go from F to F flat, we're going to a new note that's a half step lower than F. There are 5 accidentals. The white notes on a piano all have a natural name. A half step lower than a natural is a flat. So G to G flat, F to F flat, E to E flat, D to D flat, etc. A whole step lower than a natural is a double flat. So we've got A flat, A double flat. And keep in mind that every note on the keyboard has more than one possible note. G to G, keep in mind that every note on the keyboard, all 12 notes, have more than one possible name. G to G flat to G double flat. F to F flat to F double flat. A half step higher than a natural could be called sharp, or will be called sharp to that natural note. F, F sharp. G, G sharp. E, E sharp. A whole step higher than the natural note could be called that note's double sharp. C, C sharp, C double sharp. D, D sharp, D double sharp. E, E sharp, E double sharp. There are no other accidentals. That's why we're teaching you at this very early point of your musical career 5 accidentals, including the double sharp and the double flat, that you won't be using for quite some time. But when you know all 5 of these and how they work, you know all there is to know about accidentals. Each of the 12 notes in any octave has at least 2 possible names. Notes that sound the same as each other but look different are called enharmonic tones. An enharmonic tone here might be E sharp and F are called enharmonic tones. A flat, A double flat, and G are enharmonic tones. As it looks on the page, if we're in treble clef, let's see, A sharp, and when we write it in the music, we put the accidental first. A sharp has the same sound as B flat. These are called enharmonic tones. For the bottom of this page, the Accidentals Worksheet, you are to identify whether the 2 notes that are shown are a half step apart, a whole step apart, a step and a half apart, 2 steps apart, or whether they're enharmonic tones, like we just mentioned. Enharmonic meaning 2 notes that sound the same but look different in the music. Because this is a worksheet, it's perfectly fine for you to use some helps, some other study guides.